Before you hit enter, go back and check all of your numbers to make sure they're typed in correctly. Slow down just a little bit. Okay? So type all your numbers in, add them all together, make sure you do that correctly. Because again, it's just a sum, it's adding them all together. It's really hard to type numbers in if you're not even picking up the calculator. You're just clicking your fingernails. Just wait a second, because here's what I want you to do. Quick show of hands if you need me to wait before I continue, or actually let's do it this way. Quick show of hands if you have typed in all 20 numbers. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to notice how it just continued in a line. You see how there's that arrow on the left-hand side, though? Do you have an arrow on your screen?
No.
It's on your
Yes,
right?
sir.
Interesting. What you can do is you can use the directional pad on the calculator to scroll to the left. Scroll all the way to the beginning and check your numbers just one more time to make sure you did it correctly. Check yourself. You what? I was wondering if that was the case. That's why I wasn't going to say anything. Once you have them all typed in, hit enter. Let's see what you got.
157.
Okay, don't do anything yet. Don't do that. Okay, you got something different. You made a mistake somewhere. Sorry to tell you that. Now, I want us to pause really quickly. I do want to ask this. Did anybody else get 157?
Me.
Okay, so 157 is what the correct answer is supposed to be. Now, hear me very clearly on this. Would it be a pain in the butt to retype all of that if you made a mistake? Yes, very much so. And this is another reason why I love the TI Inspires. Everybody just do this to practice with me. Go to the up arrow on the calculator and hit the up one time. What do you see? You see how the sum is highlighted there? Hit up one more time. You see how all of the addition is highlighted now? I'll come and look in a second. Hit enter from there, and what does it do? It brought everything down so that you can go and modify it if you need to. Hit up. And up again. Hit enter. Now go to the very beginning and check your numbers because you made a mistake typing one of these numbers in. It copied and pasted it. Exactly. That's a great thing to note. That's exactly what it does. So when you scroll up, right, and you highlight this and hit enter, it copies and pastes it down. All right? The nice thing from here is, what do I need to do to be able to find the average? Do what? You divide by 20. So now you can just type 157 divided by 20, or on these calculators, if you just hit divided by, that's not divided by, you see how it says ANS? Any guesses what ANS stands for? Answer, right? So it takes my previous answer and just divides it by 6. Anybody else just get a fraction?
I got it, yeah.
I assume that fraction doesn't mean a whole lot to... Why did I divide by 6? What I did in statistics earlier, or in my Algebra 2 class, dealt with that. Okay, so Liva's got 157 divided by 20, right? But we probably want a decimal to really know what that means. So there's two ways to get a decimal on these calculators. First, go ahead and scroll back up until that 157 divided by 2 is highlighted, hit enter, and then use your arrows to scroll to be right behind that 157. You see how my cursor is right behind the 157? Put a decimal point there. Hit enter this time. What do you get?
1.3.
7.85. So if you put a decimal in one of the numbers, it'll give you a decimal afterwards. Does that make sense? Jamie, do you have a question? You give me a very frustrated look. Say again.
I'm just getting frustrated.
Why are you getting frustrated?
Because I messed up.
Because you what?
Messed up.
Okay, but instead of getting frustrated, learn from it. What'd you mess up that you need help with?
I deleted everything.
Okay, pause for a second. If you delete everything, hey guys, these calculators are just like computers. Does anyone know the shortcut on a computer to undo what you just did?
Your history.
Is what?
Your history.
I can't hear you.
Your history.
No, not history. There's a shortcut. 2 buttons. It's Control and Z. If you hit the Control button, Brooklyn, what did I just say? What's that going to do, Brooklyn? Then pay attention when I'm talking. Clearly you weren't. Guys, listen. Devin, Jaden, listen. I know, but hold on. When I'm talking out loud, this is something you can learn about. If there's something that just Jamie needs to know, I would go and talk with just Jamie. This is something you all need to know. A shortcut on the calculator to undo something when you mess up is to hit the Control button. You don't have to hold it down. Just hit Control and then hit Z. So notice if I hit Control Z, it took away that decimal. If I hit Control Z again, it takes away that decimal, right? Control Z undoes the last thing you did. So if you hit Control Z enough, it'll bring back whatever was there, okay? So don't get frustrated. Ask me and I can teach you things. All right. There is one other way to get a decimal version, and I do want you to see this. Above the enter button, what symbol is there in gray?
Control.
A wavy equal sign. Anyone know what that means? No? It's not, yes, it's approximately equal to, right? So if I bring that down and I hit Control and then enter, it also gives me a decimal. It approximates that fraction to a decimal. Okay? So there's 2 ways to easily get decimals on these calculators. Jaden, what are the 2 ways that you can easily get a decimal on these calculators? It's weird. It's like I just spent 5 minutes teaching you how to do it. You don't know either of them? You paying attention? Do you need to pay attention so you can learn? Not I guess. You can't learn if you're not paying attention. I can't make you pay attention, but I can guarantee you this. You don't pay attention, you're not going to learn. You don't learn, you're going to struggle in my class. You're going to get more frustrated. Don't be silly. Pay attention so you can learn. All right. I will help you, but also hopefully enough of your peers paid attention that they can help you so that if you have a question in small group time, what can you do? Ask them a question. Guys, there's a reason why I have my classroom set up the way it is. But you also need to do what you need to do to be successful. All right. Questions about how to get an average. We good? Okay. So what I do want us to do, because most of this is going to be on the calculator, when we look back here and we're looking at our notes, what we should probably write is that the sum of x sub I, that's how you read it. What was the sum of all those values? Was that the sum?
Oh, 157.
Right, remember the sum was 157. So I would write that my sum was 157. I would write that in my sample size was what? 20. I'm not going to make you write out all of the addition, but I do want to see what your sum was because I know that we can make mistakes. If you made a mistake in your summation, you still know how to get an average. You just made a mistake in the calculator. From here, I would expect you to say that the sample mean equals 157 divided by 20, which is equal to 7.85. Sorry, I'll write it up here for people in the back. My bad. by the way, just like you want to put these notes with that sheet of paper, but just in case these notes get lost, I might write that these notes go with M was a 4-8. So it says in the bottom left-hand corner. So if you look at your page, in the bottom left-hand corner, it'll say M4-8. So I might make a note, hey, these notes go with the data on M4-8. Yes, ma'am?
So just to make sure, like when you're finding the average, all you're doing is just like collecting all of them.
You're adding it all together and dividing by however many data points there were. That's it. That's exactly what this says. So that's a good question. Okay? But I do want to point out that we actually need to also interpret this, explain what this means. So what do we mean by that 7.85?
7/8500.
Okay, so 7 and 85 hundredths, but remember the context was, someone said over here, ppb, meaning parts per billion, but what's that referring to? Parts per billion of what? That's the lead concentration, right? And remember, this is an average, so the way that we would interpret that number is the average. You could also just say the typical, but the average lead concentration is 7.85 parts per billion, right? Notice how I put the context to it. These numbers have meaning. They're not just random. The average concentration, right? We did an average, a mean. The average lead concentration is 7.85 parts per billion. Does that make sense? What are your questions before we continue on to median? Nathan?
When we did it on the calculator, how did we get 6 and 20?
Say again.
When we did it on the calculator, how did we get 6 and 20?
I made a mistake on the 6 because we had a sample size of 6 earlier in my stats class, or my Algebra 2 stats. But remember, how many sites were there? 20. Remember, so that means that you added up how many numbers, right? So it's the sum of all the values divided by the sample size, how many numbers there were. So I added up all of these, and I divided by 20 because I added up 20 numbers. Does that make sense? All right, what are your questions from there? All right, means we're ready to take some notes on what a median is, correct? Okay. Can I erase these notes about mean? We all got these? Cody, you got them after I pulled the code? Yeah. Got them? Okay. So a median. What do you already know about a median?
Middle.
Okay, it's the middle. What else? Anything else? Oh.
It's
So let me.
usually, isn't it like most average number used?
It depends. We'll actually talk about when to use mean versus median, but the median a lot of times is actually better than the mean, and we'll talk about why. So that's a good thing to bring up. Okay, so let's talk about it this way. I've already heard someone say it's the middle, right? But what do we mean by that? If I have 20 data points, and I have the median, how many data points should be below the median? If I have 20, 10 would be below the median, and how many would be above the median? 10. See how that's my 20 data points? So what the median really is, that is the value that separates the bottom 50% of data right? That means the bottom half from the top 50%. So literally the median, it's in the middle, meaning it separates the bottom half from the top half. That's a median. And so a lot of times, what teachers tell students is, oh, for the median, you just put them all in order and you cross out the bottom and you cross out the top until you get to the middle. Have you done that before? If you haven't, yeah, there's easier ways to do it. But remember, all that a median is, it separates the bottom 50% of data from the top 50%. That's it. So what I do, one, I usually use technology, but I do want you to do it by hand at least once. Start with the lowest number. What is the lowest amount of lead in water? 1. 1 right here. Be careful. What's the next lowest?
3.
And notice how I crossed out that 1 so that I know I've already done it once? Okay, so I'm going to look, is there anything less than 3? Nope, so 3. What's after 3?
4.
4. Alright, so I've done one of the 4s. What's the next lowest after that 4?
4.
4.
So it's a little bit of a trick question. There's another 4. Okay, after that,
4.
4 again. After that,
5.
okay, now I have a 5. After that 5.
6.
Sure about that?
Uh,
I would say I think there's another 5 up here. So be careful. Okay, what's after that 5? 6. There is a 7.
When the four.
Another 7. Whoops. There's a reason why I wrote a 10. I'm going to pause for a second. How many data points do I currently have? 10 of them? Hey, if I have 20 data points, how many are in the lower half? 10, right? And how many are in the upper half? So there's my 10 in the bottom half. What's the next number to write? I'm going to actually start a new line at this point.
Number 7.
7. So I want you to notice, right? Lillian even said earlier that it's such a pain, right? Having to cross out the top and the bottom. If you haven't ever done that before, that's exactly how my teacher taught me. I can actually stop right now, though. This is my bottom half of data, right? And this 7 starts the top half of my data, right? Well then, what's in the middle? What's in between 7 and 7? Well, it's only 7. The only thing in between 7 and 7 is 7. So what's my median? 7. That's it. I have found what separates the bottom half from the top half. I can stop here, okay? So you don't have to put all the numbers in order. If you identify how many are in the bottom half, you're done at this point. Now you can continue this, right? You can keep finding more numbers. So I'm going to do it really quickly. I think I've done 2 of the 7s. So there's a third 7. Oh, let's see, I've done 1, 2.
This one's the bottom?
Yeah, I was trying to make sure I haven't, because that's 4 7s. There's only 4 7s, right?
Yes.
Okay, so after that 7, there's a 8. There's a 10. I don't think there was a 9, was there? Another 10. An 11. A 12. Nope, 2 11s and a 12. And a 13. And then a 22. Right? So I want you to notice, I didn't actually have to go all the way to the 20th data point because I knew there had to be 10 in the bottom half and 10 in the top half. After I found the 11th one, I knew what was in the middle. But if you want to, you can draw it all the way out. And also, you don't have to mark them out. You just have to identify what's in the middle. Maddie.
So if there's a number that's in the chart that repeats itself more than once or twice,
You write it every single time.
and you you write it every single time, and it separates, then you have your median already.
You already would have your median. Yeah. So I am going to show you one thing to clarify with a smaller data set. Let's say 1, 3, 17. This is a made-up data set. 21 and 35. When there's 5 numbers like this, what number's in the middle? 17. When there's an odd number of data points, literally whatever's in the middle is the median. When there's an even number like this, you actually have to find what's in between those two. Well, what's in between 7 and 7?
So,
7. If you were to have, let's say 1, 4, 5, 7, 10, and 13, we have 6 data points, which means how many are in the bottom half? 3 and 3, right? So it'd be right here in between 5 and 7. What's in between 5 and 7? 6 would be the median. What you do is you average those two middle ones, right? So the median is 6, median is 17. And so a note you may want to make under median is if there's an odd number of data, then median is the middle number. But if there's an even number of data, then what do you have to do? You have to average those two middle numbers. Okay? So if there's an even number of data, you have to average the two middle data points to get the, not mean, to get the median. So that's a breakdown of how to get those different values. But also it's important to remember what they mean. The median separates what? It separates the bottom 50% from the top 50%. So literally what we're saying is that half the data points are below what value? 7. Half the data points are above what value? 7. That's what we mean by the median. Half the data values are below 7 and half the data values are, well, 7 or more.
So if you have four, like, it will be automatically 4.
Yes. Because yeah, what happens when you average 4 and 4? You get 4. Right. Okay? And so that's it for mean and median. That's a quick breakdown of how to get them. Now hear me very clearly on this. Alright? We will get a little bit of practice if I make you calculate mean and median on your own, but that will come up within the textbook. We're going to learn more about these different things tomorrow on Friday. Hey, pause for a second. In closing, we don't have time for a 3, 2, 1. Hey, right here, I'm going ahead and letting you know, okay? It's not yet. Hey, you're missing details, Maddie and Trent. Just be aware that the write and practice portions will probably be homework. It'll probably be due on Tuesday. So if you look at the back of that packet I gave you, that homework is probably, okay, can I see this? Literally, if you go to the very back, you'll see, it should say talk to talk and write. So this is called talk to talk. This will be due probably on Tuesday. On the very back, there's a little part that says write. That's literally just filling in vocab terms. That'll probably be due on Tuesday. Have a great rest of your day. Hey, Jenna, can you let
I got you.
Okay. We're going to continue with this. Harold needs to be here.
Hey, put this up on the side.
I thought you were gonna be absent for some other reason.
Appreciate it.
You need to be here. If
Bro, I
it's-
got places to be, bro. I gotta go down to the band room and go help move the,
Okay.
I'm gonna be here for it, man.